Can we roll together like a lion? Roar!
Yeah.
Roar!
That's fantastic. Hi there, viewers. Today, I'm joining in conversation with author TOLU A. Akinyemi, the author of this book, Infant of Silence, and here, also have one of his book here, Never Play Game with the Devil, and several other amazing books that he has published. It's a pleasure to have Mr. TOLU Akinyemi on the show. Hi there, Mr. TOLU.
Hello, Peter. Thank you for inviting me over. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to speak with you. You know, you're an award-winning author, so it's a pleasure to have an award-winning author on the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So, you know, let's dive into it. When I found your book, The first one, which I reviewed some months ago, I actually find it very amazing. You know, Never Play Games with the Devil is quite fascinating to me. And I'm curious to ask you, how does this book come about? I mean, what inspired Never Play Games with the Devil?
Yeah, so Never Play Games with the Devil was inspired as a response to a lot of like social political issues
Okay.
that we face in society. And as a Nigerian writer, at the time I wrote Never Play Games with the Devil, I had, there were a lot of things going on within the political sphere back home in Nigeria. So the book is broken down into three themes. The first section is inspirational, and where have poems like "Kill Me Slowly," just encouraging people, like how self-confidence can be broken for people. Like when they compare one person to the other. Yeah. So the second part addresses a lot of political issues back home in Nigeria, and the third section encompasses the theme of love. So the book actually was inspired as a response to a lot of social political issues going on. And also the title poem, Never Play Games with the Devil, is just a reminder that when you play games with the devil or when you do a deal with the devil, it doesn't always end well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. You know, the title itself is one of those things that actually have me enthralled with it. The title is one of the things that actually find me quite captivating because I specifically love that sentence. Never play games with the devil. It's a sort of, more or less like an instruction for everybody. And everybody actually knows that they shouldn't play games with the devil.
Yeah, because it will give you an arm, it will take your leg and take your heart with it. That's how so it's always important. Yeah. So I think it's the title resonates with myself and a lot of people out there because it is important to remind people that when you do deals with the devil, it never always ends well. It doesn't end
Yeah,
well.
yeah, that's actually true. You know, I read the Caucus review and other reviews of your book, Black Does Not Equal Inferior. And I'd love to say that I am fascinated with the book just by reading Duke's review. And I love, you to tell us a bit about Black Does Not Equal Inferior. How does this book come about? Could you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so Black Does Not Equal Inferior was written as a result of the cries of injustice by Black people around the world after the death of George Floyd Jr. And that was my own response. It's not just a book that was written to like criticize the white community, but it's a book that has also been written for people of Black experience to find their own voice, to create their own unity, and to, just support themselves. And like the first poem in the book, Black and Unique, just reminding the Black people out there that in your being Black, you're unique, and, just encouraging Black voices to find their own voice, to support themselves, to see that beauty within that community. So I think the book was actually inspired as a result of the Black Lives Matter movement and just as my own contribution to students of the Black experience.
Oh, that's great because you know what? Well, I actually read or watched rather the video on YouTube, the kind of a trailer you made for it on YouTube, and I was quite fascinated. Even the voice of the actor or the kind of a voiceover artist made me quite enthralled because I could see racial discrimination, prejudice, etc., Black Lives Matters, etc. And I was like, I think this is more or less like something about, racism of the black by the white or something related to that since you live in the UK.
Yeah, so basically it's addressing a lot of issues, disparity in in our societies, and from all the cries of injustice, racial discrimination. And as a Black author resident here in the UK, I've it's my own way of expanding the literature around Black people, Black voices, and giving Black voices that anchor where they can they can lean on. So
Yeah.
just support black voices and to give them hope that Black lives really do matter.
Yeah, that's actually great. That's fascinating to me. Now, I also want to ask you, could you tell us a bit about your book, A God in Human Body? I don't have that in me presently, but could you please tell us a bit about A God in Human Body?
Yeah, so I think so a God in the Human Body, the way the book came about, I had a friend who bought Black Does Not Equal Inferior, and I signed it for her, and I wrote Black uh Black Black Queen, like God in the Human Body. So like it was just that was how the book came about, and that goes to show how books can come out of like nothing. And I think A God in the Human Body, I was written just to explore, themes around spirituality, divinity,
Okay.
because as writers, as authors, we are gods, we create, we birth words, and imagine the books you have written, and even for people watching this show, a lot of people have written books that came out of like nothing, just an idea that dropped in our heart, and books, so it shows that we are gods. And also personally, I see myself as a god in a human body. So I think the book was written as a result of exploring themes around divinity, spirituality, and that godship, because we
Wow.
have the Almighty God, and we as well, that we are in the image of that God. Yeah, so we are all
Yeah.
gods.
Yeah, that's actually quite intriguing. That sounds fascinating to me. Then I also see that Never Play Games with the Devil asks a lot of critical issues to address. These are matters that ranges from love to spirituality, moral values to nationalism, as seen in the poem titled End SARS, because I think I read about the poem here titled End SARS, and several others, and also motivation, among several other themes. Now, could you tell us a bit about how you derived the inspiration to pull these poems together in Never Play Games with the Devil?
Yeah, so I think and I think for Never Forget the Devil is actually like a really funny one. So I had like an open mic event that I was supposed to attend one of those evenings in 2019,
Okay.
and I was just like, oh, I didn't feel like going, and I started writing that evening, and Never Play Games with the Devil was born. So I think
Wow.
in terms of putting the teams together, I'm a poet and writer who thrives on writing about the human experience, and our experiences are universal. And I remember during the NSAS, issue, like NSAS protest in Nigeria in 2020, a lot of people were reposting the NSAS poem. And that shows a writer sees, writers are seers. We see far into the future as well, and
Yeah.
we can. So I think in terms of putting the collection together, I write about universal human experiences, and I think it wasn't difficult for me to like put
Yeah, that's
put them
great.
together.
It's funny that one book bets another book. I think that's more or less like a recurring experience for you.
Yeah, it's actually recurring, because if you look at Inferno of Silence, for instance, I have a story in Inferno of Silence titled "Everybody Don't Columenta,"
Oh,
and everybody don't Columenta now has his own, like I have a collection of poems titled "Everybody Don't Columenta," which is actually on the mental health team collection of poems addressing issues that mental health related issues, and which I had the story also in Infant of Silence. And in Infant of Silence as well, if you remember the first story, Black Lives Matter, the football, Ikeme Funa was saying, I am not inferior. Black is not a synonym for inferior. So, and that also cascaded into Black does not equal inferior. So I think my books are kind of like interwoven in terms of one
they
book
have
leading to
relationship
another.
with each other.
Yeah, and overall they have relationship with the God in the human body, the Lion of Newcastle.
That's funny. That's very fascinating and great. I love that sound. Now, I
Thank you
have a
very much.
copy of Infant of Silence here, which I've
Yeah,
longed to read, but it's great that we have you on the show now. Without
yeah.
giving too much information away, could you tell us a bit about Infant of Silence and, what are the critical themes or subjects of this book that a reader or a to-be reader should experience or look forward to while picking up Infant of Silence?
Yeah, so Infant of Silence, my award is even like on its own, it's a multi-award winning collection of short stories.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
see.
it's a multi-award winning. So Infant of Silence, the title story, many times we talk about women in abusive relationships.
Oh,
Infant of Silence as a story tries to examine men in toxic and abusive relationships. So we are looking at areas around toxic masculinity and why men remain in relationships are abusive and they do not want to leave. Yeah, so that's the title story, Infant of Silence. The first
wow.
story is a story titled Black Lives Matter. And the Black Lives Matter was actually inspired by Nigeria's football legend JJ Okocha. Yeah, so that it was the one that had personally inspired that story. Yeah. So,
Wow.
but Black Lives Matter actually explores a football player who has left Nigeria for Europe, celebrated back home in Nigeria, and he got to Europe and yeah, he faced racial challenges
Oh,
in Europe. Why why playing football in Europe? I also have a story titled In the Trap of Seers. So In the Trap of Seers explores the theme around the girl child and issues the girl child faces in culture like mine back home in Nigeria,
yeah.
whereby she's bedeviled by so-called demons and who are holding her down and so will the girl's child will she survive from the throes of those demons and devils that
Oh,
besiege her soul. So that's another story. I also have another story titled Everybody Don't Kolo Mental. And Everybody Don't Kolo Mental looks at issues around mental health issues, looking at various scenarios in relationships, in marriage, and also the type of pressure that young people face today on social media, where
oh,
people are looking for validation, people are looking for likes, so a lot of people encounter mental health issues just because of social media. They don't, the things that we just see and you look away. People are sad, people are depressed,
reacting to
so
it.
yeah, so just basically issues. Then I have Blinded by Silence. So Blinded by Silence is a political story about people who are in the throes of banditry, in the throes of people who are in the throes of turmoil in their land, but who are chosen to be blinded by the silence, because of their king and kinsman who holds sway in power. And also, I have another story on Trouble in
Trouble in
Umudike. So,
DK. I love that title.
yeah, Trouble in Umudike. So, Trouble in Umudike is just explores issues that, family issues, siblings rivalry, and, those sort of issues. And also, Return Journey. Return Journey just is a story that explores interreligious marriages and,
Wow.
the sting of love and how things can change rapidly for us.
Wow.
So I think that's the story.
Wow.
It's gripping, it's profound, and it's a kind of book that you don't want to put it down until you finish reading.
Yeah, even from your mail description, I'm already fascinated with it. It asks a lot of titles in it because I just realized that it's a collection of short stories. And film description, I actually very much love it, and I'm already engrossed with it. Especially, I love the title Trouble in Umudike, and I was curious to know if probably it's a story set in Umudike, because I think Umudike sounds like a name of a place in one of the southeastern part of Nigeria.
Yeah, it was set in Southeastern Nigeria. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Now, without giving too much information away, could you tell us also a bit about your book titled Born in Lockdown? Could you give us a sneak about that too?
Yeah, so Born in Lockdown is actually a collection of poems that chronicles the coronavirus pandemic. I know
Oh,
everybody in the world today, we are all a lot of people, a lot of people are tired of hearing coronavirus, COVID, and everything. Interestingly, I was in the market today at Time Out Market, and I was having a chat with someone who bought the book a couple of weeks ago, and he came
okay.
back to tell me that it feels like this book is going to be Born in Lockdown is going to be a vital touch point in history, because when, in his own words, when the truth about these times will be told, it's going to be distorted as we normally say with history. So most of this truth will be found in books like this, or true authors, true writers who are who chronicle like issues that occur in real time. So I think that's the beauty of literature as well, as I discussed with the person who bought the book. That's the beauty of literature, in that authors are able to like write down, document, and recount. We as writers, we always document, recount, observe, and retell these stories. And to be fair, these stories, they are all universal. Our experiences are universal in terms of the issues we face, in terms of the agony, the oppression of the world, and in terms of, just love, loss, relationships, life, death. All these experiences are universal. And Born in Lockdown is a chronicle of one of the most trying times in human history, and that is a poet's account of the coronavirus pandemic.
Wow, that's fascinating. From speaking with you, I can denote that you're kind of a writer who loves observing its environment and writing something from it. I can see that you love talking about the themes of humanity, like bringing stories raw from the happenings in the society. And I think that's a trait that is quite fascinating about writing and writers generally. I love that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, because after the recent issue, the recent terrorist attack on the train in Nigeria,
Nigeria.
Kaduna Abuja route, I remember just a few days back, I started writing about that, writing the whole collection of poems on the theme of grief. And so just goes to tell you how these experiences are collective, and what a writer does is to open the inner eyes to observe, recount, and tell the stories for history.
Great.
And
I love that. Now, this want to make me to ask a very sort of a quick question, because I've seen that most of the, especially in Nigeria, most of the things happening here can be very horrendous, and it can actually pull one in. Now, I want to ask you, what role do you think a writer have towards the confederation of a society that's imminently tearing apart? I mean, what do you think writers have to do towards a country, a society that is imminently tearing apart? What role do you think we as writers have to play?
yeah, I think writers, we have to speak truth to power.
Okay.
And yeah, so we speak truth to power. But I think part of the problems of being a writer is that when you speak truth to power, it could also lead, there's inherent danger in speaking truth to power,
Exactly.
because not all leaders, some of
Make
them
it
are like,
easy.
so, yeah, some are dictators, even in some of the
Democratic
democracies
nation,
yeah,
even in a
democratic nations.
democratic regime.
Yeah. So some of them are,
It's very
they are
simple.
dictators. So, but I think what we can do as writers is to, through our writing, shape society, unfold the truth, I know there are some writers who belong to the school of thought that we, through our writing as African writers,
Relate.
we shouldn't write about bad news in Africa, or we shouldn't write about the bad news back home, and we should only, because the West already does a good bit of that for us, documenting the bad news. But for me as a writer, the only thing we can do is to always document these stories, to write these stories in the
Show
good and
references.
bad, and through our writing we can always change the narrative.
Yeah.
That, yeah, narrative.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we can do through our writings.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I love that answer to that. Now, recently, I was watching through my review of Never Play Games with the Devil on YouTube, and I remember mentioning that the book expound on the role that the men of God, that's pastors, have to play towards the unification of a country that is imminently tearing apart. And I am curious to know if this poem was actually inspired by the happenings here in Nigeria, or you have your own unique source of its inspiration that you'd love to share with us?
Yeah, so I think Never Play Games with the Devil is not just about pastors alone.
Okay.
We all as a collective, we have that responsibility to not play against the devil. So it's a universal message, irrespective of either you are called by God or you called
Called by the
God.
society.
Either you are called by God or you called God or you are called by the society or you're a free thinker. It's just a message. It's a message that it's for everyone, that we shouldn't play games with the devil, because the implications are not, the implications of playing games with the devil, the consequences are not really the best. So it's not just about the men of God, but I think the book itself is actually quite popular because that message is a very vital one, especially back home in Nigeria, where we have a lot of youths who are sliding into the field of crime,
Yeah.
sliding into the field of drugs or drug abuse and all of that. So it's a timely reminder that for us, in whatever area or stage of life we currently are in, we shouldn't play games with the devil.
Wow, that's great. I love to hear that from you. Now, I am fascinated with your book title, and I'm curious to know what prompted you to advise us against marrying a writer.
Yeah, so like I said,
Yeah,
what do writers do? We observe, we document, we recount history. And that is what a writer, that it's like there's nothing a writer will not write about. So if you are the kind of person who would give a writer grief, you want to, or you want to abuse a writer, you want to, a writer will always write.
yeah,
So Never Marry a Writer is a collection of poems that just, talks about, is varied in its theme in terms of everyday experiences, but the title itself is just saying never marry a writer if you are one of those examples I've given before. Because a writer would always recount, document, observe history, and a writer will wash your dirty laundry, will wash it and spread it in the open. So that's what that's what writers does. Because what we observe, we document, we recount history. So if you are prone to, like, or what I wrote about, like an inferno of silence and issues that people face in society, then your best bet is not to marry a writer.
that's funny. From the title, it's actually whimsical in nature. The title is
Yeah,
very whimsical in nature.
yeah.
Now, could you share with us some of the greatest challenges you've encountered with writing and how you ultimately overcame it?
Yeah, I think I would just say greatest challenge with writing for me, I wouldn't really say there's been like a sort of major challenge. My backlist and book catalog already tells the story that even as a part-time writer and a
Oh,
full-time financial compliance consultant, I have so far published 14 books and I have 6 books that are forthcoming.
wow.
So it's been a story of it's been a beautiful story, a beautiful author story, and I am so I think it's just it is great the fact that one is able to pen those thoughts. But I think one thing I would advise writers to do is that open up your work for critic is quite important. Open up your work for critical reviews, open up your work for critic for reviews, open it up. Don't just send your books to like friends and families who are going to give you the 5 stars, who are going to tell you your book is great.
Sweet.
I think that, yeah, I think that's one way for you to identify where you are on your author journey and see what you can do better, and that would help you to grow in that journey. So I think that's a way for you to know the reality of where you are, get honest feedback in, open up, let your work be read across the world, and
Yeah.
that way you can, like for me, for instance, I go to the market every Saturday to sell books, and
Wow.
the feedback I see people, they buy books, they keep coming like every week. People buy a book, they come
Wow.
back again to buy another. It's because I'm doing something right. Imagine I sell a book that, so, and I think one thing that's helped me on that journey is the fact that I've opened up my book, to for critic. I've gotten, feedback. I get my books, I don't just give it to friends who write beautiful things about my book for me. I give it to external parties who read, who critique these works, and I'm able to like glean on what, and this
Yeah.
helps me also to.
That's fascinating. That's very interesting. Now, could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? And what are the challenges that you've encountered in terms of marketing your book? And again, what are the mediums you've utilized so far in terms of promoting all the books you've written?
Yeah, so in terms of publishing, I have my own publishing imprint, the Rory Lion Newcastle, and
That's
I have
great.
about, including myself, we have 7 authors on the imprint. So I
That's
think I think for in terms of challenges of publishing, because I'm also like I have my full-time job and I'm also trying to manage a small medium enterprise on the side, which is the publishing company, is been like a bit of a challenge on that front. So that's what I would say this has been a bit challenging, managing a small business and also having a full-time work.
yeah,
And in terms of having the resources to like, having the resources to grow the business at the pace I want, it's not just there. So but I think in terms of publishing, marketing the books, I use the various social media platforms. And like I mentioned as well, I'm always out there. I go to the market every Saturday. So I think that has been like a really good avenue to to push the books out there, to meet real-time customers, real-time people who buy the books, who provide real-time feedback. And apart from that, I just use social media and do promotions. And so, but I think the major challenge for a small publisher is just having the resources to like sign a lot of authors on the imprint annually, and also having, you know, having that marketing budget and all of that. I remember a few years back, I used to have like marketing budget in the thousands of pounds. But I think with the pandemic and everything, the book market also has shrunk in some way. So it's not that quite easy to be able to throw out thousands of pounds as marketing budget and all of that any longer. Yeah. So I think those are the major challenges. But for anyone who is looking at then the mediums that we use, The books are on our own website, theruinlionnewcastle.com, on my own personal website as well, tolutoledo.com, and on Amazon, on Ingram, Barnes and Noble, Roving Lights, Okada Books, and the bookshop.org. And so I think book depositories and so many other places where books are sold there.
Yeah, that's great. Could you, if you have copies of your book over there, could you please show it to the audience? And I only have Inferno of Silence here and Never Play Games with the Devil. So if you have other ones, that Dead Cat Don't Mew, fantastic.
This Dead Lions Don't Roar.
Don't Roar, yeah. Dead Lions Don't Roar. Well, I love the cover, beautiful. Then the other ones, this Unravel Your Hidden Gems.
This is a collection of essays encouraging people to unravel their hidden gems. Dead Dogs Don't Bark. Don't Bite.
Wow.
Dead Cats Don't Mew. Don't Waste It. Never Play Games
with the Devil. Intriguing. And
a Beautiful
Love. Fantastic.
Award-winning collection of poems.
Inferno of Silence. Yeah, wow. That's amazing.
Never Marry a Writer.
Wow. That's amazing.
Black does
not even kill you. Wow, that's really great.
I wear self-confidence like a second.
This is like a children's book.
Yeah, this is children's. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Wow.
I am not a troublemaker.
I'm not a troublemaker. That's fascinating.
Other children's. Everybody don't call you better.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a lot of books. A God in human body. Wow. This is an inspiration for writers watching this. Born in lockdown.
I have some of the forthcoming ones. This is my face. I'll wake you. It's not yet out. It's going to be out in September. It's a collection of essays. I'll wake your inner lion. 1 year. This is a collection of poems. City of Lost Memories.
Wow.
And I have a children's book that will be out in July as well. Wow. The title is If you have to be anything, be kind. Be kind. I also have a collection of poems for young people that will be out on the 1st of January 2023. You Need More Than Dreams, poetry for young people. I also have another collection of poems that will be out in March 2023.
Wow.
The Morning Cloud is Empty. And I'm just rounding up another collection of poems titled On the Train to Hell. So that's On the Train to Hell. So that's fantastic. That'll be 20 books.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of books. That's a lot, and you've really got you've got a lot going over there. So viewers, you've just watched us speak together with author TOLU A. Akinyemi, the author of the several amazing books that he has just shown on the screen over there. So if you'd like to get a copy of any of those books, I'm going to leave a link in the description part of this video to his author page on Amazon and its website for you to place an order if you'd like to get any of a copy. So, Mr. Tolu, thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. I truly appreciate the time for taking out to attend to this interview.
Thank you very much, Peter, for the great job you are doing. Let me give you a wonderful roar like a lion. Can we roll together like a lion?
That's fantastic. I so much love this interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you.